Everyone, with great pleasure, we extend a warm welcome to all the participants for the video roundtable series by CopStory Media Private Limited. CopStory.com is devoted towards the industry, and it gives corporate executives a one-of-its-kind digital platforms to exchange ideas, discover novel opportunities, share their experiences and case studies to broaden their knowledge, not only with colleagues, but with the whole world in the form of articles and videos. This portal is a digital archive of information which can be accessed anytime from anywhere for free of cost. Internal audit is a cornerstone of good corporate governance in organizations today and can play an important role to improve management and accountability, both financial and non-financial. Internal audit can be a pivotal activity to provide assurance to the board of directors, the audit committee, chief executive officer, and stakeholders of that organization are governed effectively. Hence, we begin our video roundtable series with a topic on internal audit. The topic of today's discussion is best practices for auditing in the current crisis and beyond. Now, let me introduce you to our distinguished participants of the video roundtable. To begin with, I would like to introduce you to the moderator of the roundtable, Mr. Praveen Moon, Group Head, Internal Systems, Internal Audit.
Hello.
And other participants on roundtable are Mr. Sivaram Subramoniam, Head of Internal Audit at Titan Company Limited. Mr. Manoj Agarwal, Head of Internal Audit and Risk Management at one of the leading retail organizations in India. And Ms. Madhavi Bhalerao, Head of Internal Audit at TATA AutoComp Systems Limited. Now I would request Mr. Praveen Moon to take over from here.
Thank you, Isha. Thank you so much for doing a quick introduction. I can give a brief introduction about my background. Since I'm moderator, let me take that opportunity, and I give opportunity then to my panelists to give their quick introduction. So I am a group head of internal audit at Apollo Tyres. I am responsible for internal audits for the whole organization globally and some of the other group companies, as well as I take care of the privacy programs pursuant to GDPR in Europe and other privacy designations which are coming up around the globe. Prior to joining Apollo Tyres 9 years ago, I was with PricewaterhouseCoopers for close to 11 years, where I was part of risk advisory services, where I performed a variety of roles and services to my clients. And prior to that, I did my articleship and worked with Sani Natarajan Bell for 7 years. So that's my more than 20 years of experience. I'd now like to invite Madhavi to give a quick introduction, followed by Shiva and Manoj.
Hello everyone, I'm Madhavi Bhalerao. I work as Head of Internal Audit and Risk Management at TATA AutoComp. I have about 20 years of internal audit experience across various industries. I'm a chartered accountant, CIA and a CISA. In past, I have worked for organizations like Ernst & Young, Suzlon and Mahajan Aibara Consulting. Happy to be here and look forward to the interaction.
Hi, everyone. It is a great pleasure to be interacting on this forum. I'm Sivaram Subramoniam. I have close to just short of 30 years of internal audit experience across consulting as well as various organizations and corporates. I currently am the head of audit at Titan, and I'm looking at all the business verticals as well as subsidiaries and the other overseas arms of Titan Company Limited. And that's about me, and you can figure it out from LinkedIn. On a personal front, it's important for me to tell you this because it's a bit of oxymoron. Two ladies in my life, my wife and my daughter, and actually my mother-in-law, three ladies. Wife's name is Lakshmi, which in common parlance means cash. Daughter's name is Shreya, which means credit. And mother-in-law's name is Tankam, which means gold and investment. So, there has been a cash and a credit and investment. So that's a bit of oxymoron. And like any internal auditor who has to be impeccable in his integrity, I unfortunately have a bit of cheat sheets so that if Praveen asks me tough questions, I can wriggle out of that. That's about me. Over to you, Manoj.
Hello, everyone. I am Manoj Agarwal. I head the internal audit and risk management at one of the India's largest retail chain. I hold multiple certifications. At the same time, I also hold a designation which is very dear to my heart, which is a volunteer at IIA India. I was a past Bombay chapter president as well as the current member of IIA's International Internal Audit Standard Board. So over to you, Praveen.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I think just realize that together we have more than 100 years of experience and all focused on internal audit and risk management. So that's fabulous. I don't think so audience can ask for anything more than this. So let's get this started. I was just before this virtual video call or round table, I was wondering when was the last that I attended a conference like this or a round table, and it happens to be a round table that I participated in Bombay. I think it was 2 years ago. And imagine, for attending that conference, I have to travel to Bombay. I think I spent a whole day starting from an early morning flight and came back very late in the evening to attend a conference and attend a panel discussion like this, which lasted for maybe 45 minutes to an hour. And now today we are doing this virtual roundtable of 45 minutes, which is actually going to take 45 minutes and not more than that. And we have 4 of us coming from 4 different cities, right? And 2 years ago, we would have done this traveling to one common city and spend 4 man days to do a panel discussion like this. So that's the new normal, and it has come as a acceptance to everyone that this will be the new normal for everyone. So let's get started. I think the agenda has been very clear, and what we are trying to achieve from this whole topic of internal audit in this crisis situation and beyond. What we're trying to cover through this elite panelists is that at a very high level, what are the what changes had happened at a stakeholder level, what changes had happened at an execution level, when we as an auditor go out and do execute audits, and how do we look beyond. So as we are coming out of hopefully the pandemic, what do we look for next 18 months or next 2 years or 3 years? Okay, so that's the whole agenda. That's how the whole discussion is what we're going to divide. So let me start with Manoj and start asking you a very pertinent question. I think it's relevant for everyone, right from head of audits to someone who's junior level in internal audit function. Do you see in this 18 months period the stakeholder expectation shifted or changed? I always believe that as an internal auditor, we have to maintain a fine balance between the job as value protection and value enhancement. We have to do both. Maybe sometimes focus more on value protection and sometimes focus more on value enhancement. Do you think that this 18 months, this balance kind of shifted towards one or another?
I think the internal audit is all about expectations management. For example, when you discuss with regulators, what the regulator wants, so they want value protection, control assurance. They are not interested in the value added by internal audit. If they are adding, it is not of any concerns to them. Let's also understand what the board wants. So board comprises of independent directors. They are more concerned about how to protect their skin rather than asking for the value addition. Now, what does the management wants? Management wants, again, they know, they say I know about my company, what is going on in my company. So don't talk about, value protection. Talk about the value addition made by you. And the most important stakeholder, somehow that stakeholder is absent, is the shareholders. What they want protection of their money. No, it is very, so it is very oxymoron as well as very funny when you think about. I think the issue is how to balance that out, or how to manage the expectations. Now, if you are referring to, let's say, the definition given by the C Institute, it says internal audit is an independent management function which involves a continuous and critical appraisal of the functioning with a view to suggest improvement. An internal audit therefore provide assurance that there is a transparency in reporting. So this is more focused on assurance, and value addition come as a byproduct of the various services. Now let's just also discuss about the mission of internal auditing as given by IIA. It says to enhance and protect organizational value by providing risk-based and objective assurance, advice, and insight. So it is, the main challenges happens when we talk about either or. The issue is not either or, it is about an and. So value protection is given. If you are only doing value addition without value protection, then you are doing injustice to your job. And at the same time, if you are only talking about value protection and not value addition, then you might be a costly resource to the organization. Now, for the last 18 months, again, it's about, the expectations management. If you are working in a private company, then you would be more focusing on value enhancement. Whereas if you're working for a listed company, you would be more focused on, value protection, so that the directors can showcase that even in spite of COVID induced adversity, where suddenly organization is moving towards finding new ways to working it out, the protection, the protection of the organization's value is taken care. And then only they want. I think it depends upon where you're working. And if you talk about overall basis, then yes, there is a movement towards giving more value at the time of protecting value, because this is the time you need to also justify why you need to exist in the organization. So my take is, yes, there is a movement towards value protection, but not at the cost of. There's a movement towards value enhancement, but not at the cost of value protection. Value protection is a given; it has to be there.
Yeah, well, very well said, Manoj. And I think all successful chief audit executives do a very fine balancing act, because different stakeholders have different expectation, as you pointed out. And successful head of internal audit are able to manage that expectation, doing both and maintaining the fine balance between both assurance and value addition. Now, Sivaram, do you think these expectations change with these expectations in mind? Do you think the internal audit model kind of got affected during last 18 months of pandemic? Frequent lockdowns, we were working from office sometimes, we were working remotely most of the time. Our factories, our plants, or our offices were opening and shutting down many a times, but we were required to do audits any which ways, right? So how do you think all of this impacted us, and how has our functioning changed during these times?
Yeah. Thanks, Praveen, and thanks, Manoj, for the extremely brilliant insight on the fine balance. So, Praveen, if I were to look at this last 18 months, as they say, internal auditors actually had 3 phases in their evolution, so to say, in this last 18 months. The first was, the lockdown happened. The first lockdown was fairly brutal or, drastic kind of a thing, completely unexpected that, there will be a complete lockdown kind of a scenario. And it happened somewhere end of March. That was a stage when internal auditors would probably finalize their plans for the next year and were kind of concluding their existing audits. Now, we all know, we all study probably the most in the last 10 days of the study leave, or, just 5 days, 6 days prior to the exams than the whole, it's not a fair thing. It is fairly skewed towards the end. And typically, in any function, the sales are also fairly skewed to the last. Similarly, even an internal audit is fairly intense in the last closing part. And that's where most of the audit functions were. And suddenly there was this lockdown, and it's not just the audit, the entire organization, the entire ecosystem was just, wondering what to do. And that was the first reaction. Because probably in India, at least, everyone was probably focusing more on a supply chain disruption from China, whereas suddenly there was a scenario where there's a potential loss of, of sales opportunities. So, and so therefore, that was the first stage where internal auditors were working from home. They had to complete a whole lot of activities, and the entire organizations are, looking here and there, not really looking here and there, but really figuring out what is to be done, how long is this uncertainty going to be, financial year closures, and a whole lot of things coming in. And I think internal auditors, the only plus was that, a large part of the people at least were not busy with the year-end pressures because nothing was happening, so they could contribute. But at the same time, they were all getting into a strategic huddle also. So that was a time when internal audit actually first faced the pressure of doing everything differently with a set of stakeholders who are not in front of you. And that was the first cultural adjustment which internal audit had to do, along with the process owners and along with the auditees or whatever. Then came the next stage, and with so many people I've spoken in the last 18 months, I think the internal audit fraternity, we should be, at least be proud of ourselves, saying that we fairly did. I don't think anyone simply said, I've done only 80% of it. We were able to do a little bit here and there, a little bit of descoping, but we were able to do. Quite clearly, you can do a physical verification if you had to do at that point of time. Then came the next stage where you already had a plan, but things were completely uncertain. And what do you do? And that's when probably the internal audit functions actually went ahead and revisited their plan, aligned with the business, and typically they kind of genuinely went back to the business and said, hey, listen, while we planned this much basis, all that things would be normal. Now we're looking at a completely different thing. What do we do? That's when actually the new risks started coming up. That's when you started talking about, that's when perhaps some of the potential risks that internal auditors had been speaking about came to the fore. And, therefore, there was at least an appreciation, okay, that these guys, what they said earlier in scenarios or eventualities or whatever it is, probably are coming into place. And therefore, there was a lot of buying for internal auditors who had to be proactive enough to go back and say, listen, I planned for a sales audit, but probably I'll not do that. In fact, let me give a very classic example. What we did. By April, we were able to close our previous year plans and all. And starting May, the first thing we did with the approval of the board and management, we said we will review all transactions that happened during the lockdown. If I have booked the sales, how did I book the sale? If I have enrolled a customer, how did I enroll a customer? If there is a goods in transit, where is it today? So, so that 40 days of so-called lockdown, the transactions would be far and few, but then that allowed us to, analyze the control accounts, analyzed, so it's typically, when the tide is low, you catch a lot of people probably swimming without the clothes. So this was a time when you actually tried to do it. I mean, we didn't really find anything abnormal in the organization, but that gave the first level of comfort to the board, saying that, okay, these are tough times. This is where the test of time happens. So the entire plan got changed. We had so many plants to visit. We said we'll probably keep it as a flexible plan over the last quarter. If you are able to travel, we will do that. But let's look at different things. In fact, that's when the audit actually went ahead and talked about a lot of support on control functions. We said, listen, now you're going to change your selling model. Do I go back and check my SOS? Are they geared up for this kind of a model? Am I going to do what we call here a phygital? It's a digital and a physical combination. So, a lot of new different departments are coming into the value chain for those particular transactions. So do I change my process flows? Do I change my IT configurations? So on and so forth. So that's where the audit started contributing in terms of instead of doing probably a regular set of a purchase to pay audit, let me focus on this. And as we progressed, so we had this set. So that's what audit did. And now I would say I'm pretty proud to say that overall, I think in the audit fraternity, we were much more geared up when the second lockdown happened. We had our things pretty clear on what we need to do, because it was going from a lockdown to a hybrid to back to a lockdown or whatever it is. So therefore, when we look at the internal audit as it evolved, I think the 2-3 things which has happened is that, one, it has forced the audit to better align with the businesses as well as the key stakeholders. And second thing, it has allowed for a larger scope for flexible planning. Now, to probably quote it, there are I probably use 2 set of Hindis. One is a really very colloquial and a casual part phrase, and probably the other is a chaste poetry from Ghalib. So the first one is, we've all heard in our life, Majburi ka naam Mahatma Gandhi. That's the necessity is the mother of all invention. I think that forced the internal audits to actually do what we have been planning to do. We have been doing, but probably taking baby steps and everything. Automated workflow, virtual meetings, team meetings, analytics, looking at a larger picture, digital, for instance. We'd always go and say, I want these 20 vouchers, and that goes to the record room and comes back and everything. Now everything digital. Get it scanned, look at what is available, go into search, freeware versions to read the contracts on its own and stuff like that. That's one thing which happened really. So it probably just triggered off a higher velocity in the change that we were anyway looking at bringing in the last few years. The second thing is actually, it's a Ghalib's share, which said that hui muddat Ghalib mar gaya, magar ab bhi yaad aata hai. I may be a little bit off here, but the core is hui muddat Ghalib mar gaya, wo ab bhi yaad aata hai, wo har ek baat pe kehna ki yun hota to kya hota. So, the entire audit team now has to focus on complete iteration. What happens if 10 days it is closed? What happens if Kerala is closed but Tamil Nadu is open? What happens? I mean, we are in a city where our office is in Karnataka, but it's a 20-minute drive to Tamil Nadu where our factory is. Okay, what happens in a scenario where people can't move from here and there? What happens if goods can't move in there? Tamil Nadu is open, fine, I can do all the manufacturing, but how do I make it reach to Kerala? Because the transit is stopped. And therefore the iteration, I would not even call the inquisitiveness, which is the iterations which the auditor has to now do to evaluate all this scenario, because now it has an acceptability of the so-called, we used to call as a doomsday predictor, this will happen, this will go wrong or whatever it is, but somehow now that acceptance has increased. So that is where I would say the audit has evolved. It could be by design or by default. They were moving in that direction. The speeds were varying, but now I think the audit has lived up to the reputation of becoming a much more inclusive, consultative, as well as anticipatory function within the organization. That's how I look at the audit. And if we have done it in bits, I think this is the way we need to move it. And the concept of, it's not just a concept of work from home, it has become a concept of work from hometown. Okay, that's how I'm calling these, because it's not just that the guy is here and you call him for 4 hours or 2 hours. He's sitting in Asansol, I'm sitting in Bangalore. I need to do this. I mean, I can't call him or her and get it done. So it's no longer just work from home, it's work from hometown. So you guys will not be able to meet. So how do you evolve your own team building activities, motivation stuff, efficiency? That's what we need to look at. And that's the thing. The hybrid model is on for a very long time.
Absolutely wonderful, Shiva. I think you gave very good insight, and your whole talk quite a lot resonated with what happened with me at Apollo Tyres, and I like to give some examples here. So now what you mentioned about work from hometown, I managed to do audit of my US subsidiary with an auditor sitting in Rajasthan in a place called Sikar. I don't know whether you have heard about this place. So there is a place called Sikar, very small town. And he did the entire audit of your US operations sitting from that place. So that's how it is. Work from anywhere, work from hometown, whatever you call. And Shiva, what you said is right, is that we have surprised ourselves pleasantly by doing and adopting these kind of, had anybody accepted or even forecasted that we would do something like this, sitting and not even traveling to US and doing audit from a remote town in Rajasthan. We would have never even thought about it, but we have been forced to do things that we never thought we would do. And also one more thing, Shiva, is that I like to share is that when we went into the first lockdown, which was March, April last year, we were in the audit planning cycle, and I made my audit plan thinking that this will all be over in 3 months time, right? And rest of the year would be normal. And I made my audit plan like that, and I have to go back to my audit committee twice to change my audit plan with, I removed certain items and added certain items. But in the end, I met my final plan, and they were all quite happy that, we were able to still achieve so much, even though 80% of the time we were remotely working last year. And come this year, we were again making an audit plan when we were at the height of second wave, the brutal second wave. And I thought at that moment of time that the whole year is going to be again like this. And now we are almost back to normal. We are going to office. My whole team is almost back to office. So whole of this thing, what has it taught me is agility. I think our planning cycle has shortened 2 to 3 months. Earlier, I could have a whole visibility of the year, and I know what audits needs to get done at what period of time. At this moment, I don't look beyond 2 to 3 months, and then let's go over with it and let's plan and ahead. And Shiva, you want to share something?
Yeah, I just wanted to share one thing, and that's a very important thing I was thinking of. Somehow I missed it. A lot of these developments are now, when I say it's not the work from home or whatever it is, but a lot of these developments are now in for a much longer time because of the benefits. For instance, when the stores opened, the mobility was still not there. Only the stores, my retail stores were open. And one of the important things which, internal audit does sometimes or, on a regular basis is doing a physical verification of the jewelry items at the stores. Okay, that's a big ticket task. It normally takes 3-4 days, 2 guys going and, doing it in lots and everything. So during this lockdown, it forced us to really think of how do I do it, because the verification was still important. And a very fantastic IT solution. So there is a video interface. There is this list of stocks available. This guy shows that on the screen, okay, does the barcode tagging. Okay, he does it there. It gets uploaded onto my system. There is a photo of how it looks in my screen, that jewelry piece displayed on the screen. Okay, so I know he's showing me a earring. This is how the earring should look. This is the barcode, gets updated in my Excel file here. He's sitting in Jabalpur. I'm sitting in Bangalore. And the only manual intervention was he would put it on a weighing scale. There was this weight which would come. Obviously, we're not so sophisticated that is interface. So he will type 12.34 grams. That's it. And that sheet would say, okay, the standard weight is this, or what the the system says the weight of this earring. This is the weight. This is the barcode. So that is how we've done physical verification. And now you can travel, but we choose to do that only. It's a simple, there are cases where we have used a mobile phone camera to do this. Just wanted to share that, as an example, we've evolved and we're kind of going to do that now in future also.
Yeah, and I'm sure days are not far behind when there'll be a small chip in each item and you don't even have to do that, and you'll be able to collect data, right from that chip. I hope that also come.
In our business, we'll have to reduce that weight when we bill you.
Yeah. Right. So Madhavi, coming to you, so what do you think, what are the practices that you adopted in your organization, and what do you think, as in profession, we need to take it forward, the good learnings that we adopted in last 18 months, what are those that we need to now take it forward as more and more we open and adopt, hopefully, and hybrid work culture?
Right. Thanks, Praveen. And I appreciate and agree the views presented by Manoj and Siva and Praveen also. I can relate with the incidences mentioned and how the internal audit has evolved over the 3 phases of lockdown. So in my organization, we were able to do 100% of our audit plan that we had planned for the last financial year. The only modifications probably we had to do was shift the audit areas from one quarter to another to provide the flexibility or to facilitate various do that audit area in a better fashion. And obviously, we have to be more creative, more process leader with the process owners, with the team, so that we are able to give the same assurance while working from home. Find out the ways how we can do it. So there has been a lot of innovative thinking that has taken place in this whole process. So to say, the evolution and the maturity of remote audits has been fastest over last 18 months. Like working from home and working from office, both has its own advantages and disadvantages. Now that we have our home offices set up, we all have things to like about working from home, such as flexibility, ability to focus, and of course, no commute. We don't spend time on commuting, and we can spend the time on working. Now that office is made open, we have things to like about office, such as social interaction, joy of collaboration, and of course, that endless pot of coffee. With the IoT, it has been possible for us to connect anywhere with anybody. So that gives us flexibility to work on demand while working from home. And the newer, more and more, the team members are from the millennials, and they would prefer working from home. So working from home has its own advantages. At the same time, there is nothing like, say, first-hand observation of processes that cannot be replaced. There is nothing like seeing the processes firsthand, observing the body language, or noticing the smell that is not supposed to be there. So these are the things that can be done only when you're physically present at particular audit occasion. So there has to be a right mix and combination of the working from home and working from office. Now that the organizations are willing to offer best of both the worlds to the employees, it is for us to figure out what will maximize the productivity and the personal well-being. So it is for us, the key is identifying which task is done better where. Like tasks that need collaboration may best be done from office, such as discussing critical audit gaps or process improvements, which involves a lot of stakeholders getting their buy-in, understanding the views. This task may be done better while in office. Or there could be things that require your physical presence, such as physical verification of inventory, or payment procedures, or cycle time counting, or things that involve some manual records. These things have to be done while being in office. But things that may require, say, extended concentration, those are still better to be done from home. It could be your research on particular subject, or it could be some reviews or drafting of reports, or presentations, your planning, your follow-ups. These can very well be done from home. However, this is again very personal. What is good for one person, somebody may find it better to work from home, while somebody may find it better to work from office. Like somebody may find it's good to brainstorm alone in a room, while somebody may find it better to brainstorm while with a team in office. So this is a personal choice again. So the decision of allocation of work between home and office has to be done considering various factors, such as level of automation, the remote audit tools that you have, what are your personal preferences, the kind of manual records we have, and all that. At the end of the day, any allocation of work between home and office is good as far as we don't compromise on the assurance and the quality of work. So that's it.
Wonderful, Madhavi. And I just thought about, nowadays we cannot accept any meeting in which at least one person is joining online, even though, some of us is joined back office. And the research says that in foreseeable future, you can expect any meeting to take place, at least one person would be joining virtually. In fact, I had an instance where a couple of weeks back, 5 people of us joined us in a meeting, but all of us were in office, but we still joined online, and it was still productive because you're not wasting time walking up to a meeting room, and we are waiting for one person who was late, and then we're calling up. We've all faced that kind of situations. We all of us logged in on time on Teams and started the meeting, even though all of us physically were in office. So that, let me just ask each one of you one more question, which is a favorite of any internal audit, right from a junior person to a senior person, which is on analytics. We've been talking about analytics. I think the most talked about topic last decade would be analytics, and how internal audit has adopted analytics. So if I have to share my journey, I think more than analytics, I think we were already doing a lot of analytics in the last 6-7 years, but what we did was that during this time, we surprised our stakeholders, our process owners and management, showing how much analytics actually we can do. Nobody thought that we could do so much. And also using of technology, using of SAP and using data, that is something that our stakeholder did not believe that we actually use technology so much as internal auditor, because when they saw that remote working and being able to present so many data with so many insights, they really got surprised. So that is something that a change happened in the belief that my stakeholder had with me. Okay. And I like to know from each one of you as to what is you think has been your analytics journey for last decade, and how did that change or accelerate in last 18 months? So let's start with you, Manoj.
See, in retail, the retail generates a lot of data. In fact, if you see, large retailers, they have a huge amount of data sets. Of course, it totally depends upon how you want to use them. So retailers, by definition, they have to use the data to understand what the customer wants, what customer doesn't want. Now, at the same time, I think this last 18 months, my company was something I never thought we will be working from home. But for last 18 months, we are working from home. Even today, we are working from home. But in last 18 months, the lot of data which used to come manually, they started coming in digitally, because there was no other choice. Even if it is coming in physical form, it is to get converted into digital form for further processing. So this has enabled us to further capture additional amount of data. Now the data analytics, all I can say, it's a journey. Even 5 years later, we will be still journeying on that road. Whether it is data analytics, or whether it is a video analytics, or whether it is social media analytics, it's a journey.
Madhavi, to you, what's been your experience?
We have data analytics in place, and this has been helping us. But during the pandemic, the importance of that has got enhanced. Even the speed with which, as Manoj rightly said, this is journey, and we all will be working on this for next few years, because we had done some analytics, some automation, and we were working. We had plans to do it further. So this got enhanced, because everybody realized the importance of analytics, as it allows you to free up your time from the basic assurance and concentrate on more strategic and current issues, and the value of which was seen in the organization. So there was more support and buy-in to this activity, and that's what the difference I saw, basically.
Shiva, you are also from retail industry, so I'm sure you also resonate with what Manoj says. You also must be generating large amount of data. So how do you been using that data?
So Praveen, probably your question was how we managed the last decade on data journey and how the data journey was. I always say this, that my journey has been that first I moved from data to data. No longer my audit observations are God luck, ki data ne dekha, chalo mil jayega, so you'll figure out an audit observation. It is purely now data driven. So that's the first story. And the second journey is basically moving from a sample to ample, whereby earlier what you used to represent or report from a sample basis, now you need to do it from ample basis. So that's a core journey, you would say. And I mean, it's not ending, because it is a given fact, and it is not just internal audit. Even the highest, largest, most evolved data-driven organizations, the level of usage of data is probably in a single-digit growth, whereas the data generation is in a 3-digit growth. So, the size of data that grows every day, every month, every quarter, so the amount of data you start using there's a huge gap. So therefore, there's a lot to catch up, and internal audit shouldn't really feel bad, because even typically much larger data driven are all probably using, I saw Fortune 500 survey, probably around a 27 or a 28%. So we're not, that's the first story that, the second part is my own journey in data analytics actually in the last few years have been actually pretty heterogeneous, so to say. Somewhere in 2015, I was working with a telecom company, again, extensively huge data driven organizations, and you had extremely complex tools, and they were all business tools. So you were restricting yourselves to probably a fair amount of, and you had such big teams like revenue assurance doing it already and stuff like that. So it was trying to make your own space in an organization which was already so extensively high on data analytics. Then obviously I moved to a larger conglomerate where our team actually got the IIA award for data analytics in continuous control. But that was again multiple businesses, so good 75 odd insights that we developed. And some of them were, I'll typically not call them standard, but the rate variance, the PRPOs or whatever it is. At Titan, we have actually turned it completely the other way around. So number one is that we use Excel, Alteryx, SQLs and everything to process, but my output finally comes in a very dynamic Excel sheet. Okay. And we have what I was talking about, the iterations. We are generating close to around 30 to 40 insights, which are extremely business scenario driven or insights, red flags, or predictive. For instance, we say first 15 days, this is my shop floor, guys, hours put in. Balance budget so much. If I allocate equally or I apportion basis the last 15 days efforts put, this is how his overtime will look. Can you reallocate people to reduce overtime costs, or would you breach the statutory limit? That's a predictive model. Okay, we do it in Excel. Okay, or to say that while MSME payments booked and due potential delay is happening, we are doing it at a GRN level. A GRN made, hey guys, if you have to make this payment, forget the invoice booking. That's a predictive we're talking about. Okay, or on this particular day, there are X number of quantities of material to be delivered. That's the due date. Will your quality guy be able to check basis the sample or whatever those algos are? Okay, will your quality guy will have enough time to do that? That's a predictive. So we say that 18th, you will have this challenge, guys. Either you put more people or be ready for a delayed GRN or whatever it is. So that's the kind of thing. Or we simply give the business saying, hey, this guy on this day has passed so many vouchers and his average time per voucher is so and so. Vendor invoice booking. We leave it to the business to say, okay, this guy can do, someone believes that this guy can do 100, or someone believes, the various accounts payable guys believes that his team can do 50. So he can put, okay, how many guys above 50 or how many guys above 100. He just puts that number and he believes it should take 3 minutes or 5 minutes or 7 minutes. He puts that number and he gets a list of people who have done more than 50 vouchers in a day with an average time less than 3 minutes or 4 minutes. This is a dynamic Excel file. Everything happens through Alteryx. Data download from SAP. We've not reached the ODBC connector stage. Tables downloaded. Alteryx workset. Exception thrown. Output given. Completely usable. So we're looking at it like this because what we are looking at is IFC, other controls, automated. We are focusing purely on system configurations and not wanting to do the same insights again. Because anyway, the system says GRN cannot be greater than PO. I don't want to generate those lists. Instead, focus only on configurations and keep doing that. What I would want to probably do is a scenario where I have announced a scheme whereby I'm going to give a 50% discount on a watch. And I suddenly find that my franchisee is showing that Praveen has walked into the showroom, returned a watch which we bought maybe 3 months back without any discount, and again rebilling to him with a 50% discount, and that guy is claiming from me. Now, why would Praveen come to a store, return the watch and buy back the same watch? That's the insight we are giving. And this is again Excel. all the working happens at backend through SQLs and Alteryx. We've hired people who are experienced in that in the audit team, along with the regular audits. And the output comes in Excel, because then the Tableau, BI licenses all does not become my challenge. So that's what we are doing. And every guy in my team at an assignment level has a KRA of 15% use of analytics and 5% suggestion of insights. So 20% goes for every assignments, every person's KRA on analytics. And that's how we are able to develop these insights. So that's what our journey is.
Wonderful, Shiva. Great to hear from you. I think this is the way going forward. Having KRAs for individual auditors to adopt analytics. I think that's a good learning also. And what you mentioned about predictive analysis, I think that's also a very good thing that all of us should try and imbibe with whatever analytics models that we have built. How to leverage that to come out with some kind of predictive insights. So wonderful, Sheeta. And you gave my example of me walking into Titan store. I can tell you I'm a very loyal customer of Titan, and including a very proud shareholder as well. Okay. So with that, let me just bring this whole discussion to a close and summarize three or four key points that all of you mentioned. I think one of the key thing is that what Manoj mentioned is that the expectation of shareholders still is very varied. So you, as an internal auditor or a head of internal auditor, you need to keep doing that fine balancing act and make sure each stakeholder is satisfied with terms of value protection and value enhancement. Also, I think what came out from all of you is that the respect for internal auditor during this period has really increased, because we have surprised many, including ourselves. We have surprised many stakeholders with what we have been able to achieve during this period, and we were forced to adopt many of the practices that we wanted to adopt over last so many years that we adopted during this time. So that's something which is great. And that also point out that we've been very agile in last 18 months, and that is the way going forward. We need to be agile and follow and adopt practices that make sure that we stay agile and adopt short-term planning cycles as the way ahead. I think that's one of those key learning. And I would like to invite each one of you to have any closing remarks, very quick one. Starting with you, Madhavi.
Yeah, just to summarize, the pandemic may throw many immediate risks such as health and safety, supply chain, or controls during remote working, or IT controls, etc. However, while internal auditor is addressing those risks, we should not lose our focus on emerging risks that is affecting the future state of the organization or long-term objectives. So we have to balance between that. Next, as you rightly said, we have to be agile. We have to keep focusing on what is more relevant to the organization, and what is relevant today may not relevant tomorrow. So we have to be constantly revisiting our audit plans and audit focus. So that is something we need to continue doing. And it's not only focusing on what is relevant, but we also rigorously need to follow up on the action plan given by the process owners and the management to remediate those gaps. So that is also equally important. So that's something we should not lose focus on. Thirdly, value creation and value protection has to be balanced, never going to go out of fashion. We have to keep balancing it. And lastly, right balance between work from home and work from office that maximizes the productivity, audit assurance, and the personal well-being.
Thank you, Manoj.
So this is on the value creation. Let me give certain yardstick to my fellow listeners. See, today one of the most precious commodities is the time. Whether it is your time, your auditor's time, or any management's time. If you work towards reducing the time taken by you for a project or time spent by management on something, then that is the best kind of value creation you can have it. Then there is automation. Because of digitalization, there is a great opportunity to automate a number of tasks. If you can do that, it can also reduce your cost budget. Documentation. So it is quite possible the company is highly digitalized, but still lacking documentation. So if you work on those documentation, it will help you to create your value addition. Then of course the routine, for example, your cost optimization, minimization, revenue maximization. Many of the auditors may think that it is not their job, but the most open years in an organization is of operations, the business, as long as you are telling them how to increase their business.
Shiva.
So, Madhavi and Manoj have predominantly covered all, so I don't want to repeat any of that. On the contrary, I would like to say something else. We're talking about being agile, we're talking about being innovative, we're talking about being technology savvy, adopting technology, and all this absolutely important, looking at a good balance between value protection, value enhancement. I feel one of the biggest, victims of this new model has been somewhere our own work papers and demonstrating what we have done, which has become too digital right now. And I give this example to everyone. Our work somewhere is very similar to a guy who comes to your home and takes your blood sample for a test or a diagnostic. Okay, he comes, he takes the sample. So imagine what happens. The guy comes, he takes your blood sample, goes and runs some tests, and he figures out whether your cholesterol is okay, your sugar is okay. We also go test dipstick, good process check through analytics, through visual or whatever it is, and come back and tell, hey guys, how good or bad you are. Now imagine when you see your blood test report and you see your HB1AC is 5, you say, and someone else sees the report, audit report, and says, no observation. Hey, have you done your work properly? Is this the way you do? Are you sure? I think there is a lot of problems. So what happens is, it is very, very important that in this digital phase, we are able to demonstrate that we have done all the tests. Okay, we've done all the checks in the right manner. In my view, somewhere I will not use the word transparency, but identification of the various steps that we have done or not, because it gets lost in so many VLOOKUPs and COUNTIFs and SUMIFs. You really cannot establish a very proper audit trail today. That is one of the biggest casualties, as I would believe, in this model, and we need to be extra careful about that. That's the limited additional point I probably want to make.
So I would just like to add one thing on what Shiva said. There is something called, there are some audits where you won't find any observation. So what we do is we add a slide or a page giving positive assurance, where we're actually informing the reader that, hey guys, we have done this particular control testing and we have not found. No, we are saying that this control is working in properly. And I think this is something which even the management also likes, because audit report generally says, hey guys, you have not done this, not done this, not done that. But you also tell them, yes, these are 10 activities which we found in order. It also gives a balanced perspective to the audit report.
I agree.
Please go ahead, Madhavi. Sorry.
I agree with Manoj. We also do that in my organization. We give one slide to begin with, which is the positive assurance. So between the positive assurance and the observations, most of the sub-processes or important aspects of the process get covered. So you don't miss out on something. Either it is there in the positive assurance or there is improvement which is followed. So you have that assurance that you have not missed out on anything. And also the process owners are very happy that you appreciate what they are doing good, and management also gets the assurance.
We've just gone one step ahead. We actually talk about the best business practices, bright spots for each audit in the audit committee. So that forces my team to actually give me, which forces them to do industry benchmarking, other division benchmarking, or any process benchmarking, and then thereby come and say, listen, these are 10 good contract clauses we had. It could be anything, 10 good contract clauses that you have had, or your firewalls are, very good, or in diamond procurement, let's say there is a ethical sourcing. So, the framework for ethical sourcing has been put in place, so on and so. So we actually come with the first slide of our audit committee's core audit concerns, bright spots, hot spots and bright spots, both come in the same page.
Yeah, I think as a profession, we have come a long way. A decade back, giving a positive assurance for probably probably not so welcome sign. I think even, if you go strictly by theory, some of the frameworks and standard may still be not advising head of audits giving positive assurance, but I've been doing that in my organization. I give what has been the improvement from last audit, what has been the good practice, what has been the best practices being followed, and giving an overall picture of how the whole function process lasts. So that's one of the things that you do to build respect with management. You're not just there monkeying, sitting on their back, watching what they're doing. You're also telling them and giving them what good they are doing. Well, with that, I think I can go on and ask questions to this wonderful panelist, but I think we have to end, and I would like to give a vote of thanks to all of you, Shiva, Manoj, and Pallavi. Thank you so much for sharing your wonderful thoughts with the audience. I don't know, millions of them would be probably listening to this platform that Corporate Story is trying to create, a new platform for sharing knowledge. And I'd also like to thank Corporate Story for creating this forum and giving all of us an opportunity to share our thoughts on this topic. So thank you so much, all of you. Over to you, Isha. Thank you.
Thank you, speakers. This was an extremely informative session. We at copstory.com, thank you for your time that you have taken out of your busy schedules to be part of this roundtable series. And we really look forward to your participation in the future. This video roundtable will be available on our website and YouTube channel. Log on to www.copstory.com and view the COP TV section for all the latest videos. We request all the viewers to kindly subscribe to our channel and click on the bell icon to get notifications about various informative roundtable. Thank you. Thank you all of you once again to join us today. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you. And stay safe.
Bye.
Thank you.